Hi everyone, it's Jean from the Inky Owl Studio. Welcome, welcome. This is going to be part 2 of the craft along, in which I am assembling a design team project for Queen of Mirth and working on a Botanist Lapbook or folio. However you want to look at it, it's one or the other. So for this time, I am going to be working on the stacked envelope section in here, and what I plan to do with each part is I'm going to complete. I have three more sections left, and so I'm going to complete each one for each part of the ones that are following up. And like I say, this is not a real formal tutorial, but it's sort of let me show you how how I am assembling this. And anyway, so we'll get started. I have pre-recorded a lot of these steps, so we will just jump right into it. So today we're going to work on the envelope flip out, sort of like a stacked envelope type of design in this section right here, this first little section. And I have the envelopes, most of them have been pre-prepared and ready to put in, but I just wanted to show you how I did one, and you can craft with me while I do this one envelope the way I did the other ones. Now if you want, these are dollar store envelopes, nothing fancy. If you wanted to use recycled envelopes, I'll show you how to do that. First of all, you would take a little piece of cardstock, and it's about 1.25 inches wide, and you're going to want to fold it in half like that, and score it up nicely, and about the length of your envelope. This is kind of on the short side, but you can just pretend that this is the length of your envelope here, and you'll want to glue this side onto the glue it like this. Glue it like this on the inside. So you're going to take your envelope and put it down like this, and then of course you're going to need to cover the back part of it, and then this part here gets glued on right down here, so that now you've got a flap, since you won't be having this open flap if you're using junk mail because it's already sealed up. So that's a way you can recycle some envelopes if you would like to do that. But for this project, I am using these pre-made envelopes. And so basically what I did was I inked around them really well, and inked around this section and around this here. And of course you're not going to be seeing the flap. That's what's going to get glued down. And then I just quickly measured, turned it over, and I measured with the wrong side up. I like a little border, so I'm leaving this little border here all the way around. Then I took my pencil and I marked right about where that border would be there, and right about where that border would be over here. Now I need two pieces this size. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to cut off this part here, and then I'm going to cut out my two sections. So I'll do this slice first, and then I will do the two sections. Now you have to also look to see if you have like, let's see here, like this particular piece here kind of has a direction to it. It's not as obvious, I guess, as maybe another piece, but some pieces have a real obvious direction. I think this piece did right here. This piece had an obvious direction going up this way, and so you'll want to make sure that when you cut out and lay your design down, it's going to go in the right direction of your envelope. Because some envelopes are going to open this way, and some envelopes are going to open up this way. So as you plan it out, and if there's a direction in there, you'll want to make sure your directions are going in the right way. These are my two pieces. They're the same size. And I'm going to ink the edges. I do like inking edges. I think it really highlights the paper when you do. Even if it's just a light, very light dusting, I think it enhances the paper. So that is fitting very nicely, and we'll just go and glue that in. So I hope your new year is going smoothly for you. I've been doing a lot of goal setting and, you know, just thinking about the future, really. Directions that I would like to pursue. Nothing really serious or in stone, but just kind of a general direction I'd like to take with my life. Or not my life necessarily, but with components in my life. And now we need to cover this section in here. And so the way I do that is I put the paper, the other paper we cut that was the same size as that, I put it in there face up. And I put it in there face up because, believe it or not all envelopes are perfectly symmetrical when it comes to this area right here. If you look closely, you'll see that this envelope part over here is wider than this part, which kind of makes this higher than that part. So you can either pre-cut that area. You can take your ruler and just sort of mark it off right here and pre-cut it, or you can cut your underneath paper accordingly. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that off before I even get started. Now, not all envelopes have that problem, but check for it in case yours does. All right, so that just evens it out a little bit more. Now, when you place your paper inside, you're going to place it. All right, so you can see this is the flap right here is where the line of the fold is right along here. You want to leave a border, the same kind of border you're leaving over here. You know, the border that you're leaving in here, you'll want to leave that border between the flap and your paper. All right, and then once you've done that, you can just trace along here, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find an easy way to make a pattern so that we can glue up this side. So you trace along there. All right, now you've got two options. If you don't feel comfortable eyeing things up, you can go back with a ruler, and you can then make another line that is the size of your border with a ruler, or you can just do what I do. Live dangerously and just eye up about what that border is going to look like. Alrighty. Now you might also have to, after you put it on here, nope. So if you did not cut enough off, you can always cut off the bottom a little bit more to raise it up if you need to. But that's pretty good. That's, you know, for me, I like it. So I am going to now ink the edges. And that's the thing about distressing the edges here too, is that it takes your eye off of imperfections, I should say, somehow. Okay, there we go. All set and all ready to be glued in. So there's your pattern that you created for your thing. And like I say, you can use rulers to be even more precise. If you would like. So now we have the back side done. Okay. There we go. And also, you know, I pre-cut that little place, but I can always go back in and cut more away if I wanted to. Now these envelopes are not white on the inside. They have this really ugly, well, it could be attractive if you have blue going on in your journal, but I don't have blue. And but if this were totally white, as you can see, I've already started, I would go in and distress it with, you know, a little bit of distress ink. I'd probably use my makeup brush and go in, just tone down the whiteness is all I would do, and it would be fine. But being that it is, I am going to put in some other paper. Now you could use decorative paper, but you know, it's a little expensive. So I'm just using tea stain paper. It's a scrap that I had left over from a project, so I got tea stain paper, and you don't need to come down all the way to the bottom. If you just come in a little bit, like a little bit past here. So as you can see, my paper, you know, comes down past that point there. As long as you do that, you should be fine. Now actually, this jogs my memory too of what I had thought about as I considered the covers for this. And that is, I could have, let me just put this glued in here first. So you want to come up to that fold, but you don't want to go past that fold. You want to make sure that the fold is happening. There. So there you go. Now you got a little, I also like the tea stain because if you do have decorative paper, it kind of enhances it a little bit. If it was too busy, you might not see how your decorative paper. So when I had come up with this idea, and you know, I keep going back over tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, is if I had to do this over again, you know what I would do? Since I already planned to glue something on the cover, and like, okay, this is the back and this is the cover. I already planned to glue something there. What I could have done, and it would have been just as successful, is taken tea stain paper. And what is tea stain paper? Bought copy paper that we dip in tea. And it comes out a little bit stronger than it does going in for whatever reason. I guess it soaks up all the elements or something. But I could have used that to cover this board. And then I could have just, if I needed to, I could have distressed the edges even more. But there would have just been a tea stain edge all the way around, which actually would also be very attractive. So I could have done that for the back and the cover. And these, though, I wanted these decorative. But yeah, I could have done that. So that's just a way for you to maybe save a few pennies. You could just cover them all that way and just use your decorative paper to cover the different panels. You know, so I don't know. That was just a thought that came to me. Well, anyhow, let's get started on the rest of this project here. So these are all finished. And now you have to determine, okay, this is on this side. And eventually you're going to be laying these envelopes right, you know, fairly close to the seam here. You know, again, allowing probably maybe 1/4 of an inch between that and the fold in there. So this is essentially how I think I want it to look. And yes, it is pretty much how it's going to end up. It's going to end up like this. Now I want to come up with a way to keep them closed so that when you open them up, they're not flapping everywhere. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to make one of these little guys. Let's see, where did he run off to? Oh my, he ran someplace. Well, I'll show you this one. Well, these little tabs you're going to put twine around or string around to close it with. How I make these, and I've shown this before, and a lot of people know. You make the little hole first. You make a little hole in your cardstock, and then you can center your puncher over it, and so you get one that has a hole in it. Then I usually cut two more and out of the cardstock, sometimes three, but at least two more out of the cardstock because I like them to be kind of firm. And I glue them together. And then once you have them glued together, or if you want to, you can also put decorative paper up on top. I just happen to have some cardstock that I printed on in my scraps, so the top part of it is already got like a color on it. And so once you got that all done, you go back over with your hole punch and you put a punch right back inside there, and your tab is ready to go. And for the tie that goes around that little disc, I'm going to use string, and this needs to be, let me just lift this up carefully here. This needs to go down here on the base, and I like to put some tape over it. Just going to get this masking tape just so that it will hold nicely down there and not pull out. I'm going to put down this tape. Go. And then eventually these are getting glued over it, and then eventually there'll be another layer of paper as well. But this is going to come crossed over here and wrap around this little medallion guy right here. And just trying to figure out the placement of this little feller. There we go. I think it's about right. Right about there is a good placement for it. And let me mark it there. And so I'll need to put a little hole there. And that hole is going to be, down inside here. So, you really don't need anything fancy. You really don't. You could just get a little pokey tool or just anything. Doesn't have to be a hole punch. So I'm just going to put a little something in there just so you can get a brad through there. That's all you really are interested in. And let's put this little fella in there. Just like that. So it's you got to work with your envelope already assembled, but it's not that bad. Now you are going to have this little brad leg sticking inside there, so you'll want to cover those up. And since you're not really going to see what you cover it up with, I am going to go ahead and get another piece of masking tape. Here, let me cut that down a little bit more. Just going to get a piece of masking tape and stick that right over the brad area there. That way, whatever you got to slip in and out won't get caught up on that brad. So those elements are finished. Now, hopefully, I can get this glued in the way that I intend it to be glued in. And get my little glue run down there. So I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for this. just because I like the way it holds. Had a little technical difficulty. I ended up gluing the last two envelopes on. And so essentially what I've discovered is that the top ones need to be put down first and then the insides next. So each layer you want to build in your envelopes like you want another layer, then that would go on last. So you build from the outside in to put your layers of envelopes on there. And so I got this done, and then I ran across another tip. And let me share that with you. Inside here is going to, oops, not the one, here. Inside here, of course, you're going to put a piece of decorative paper to cover up all the envelopes. But when I was doing this, I found out that this blue, because I ended right there on the crease, when I went to put this in, it's like, ooh, I could see just a tiny bit of blue. So what I did was I put in another layer of the tea stain paper and went past this crease in here. I don't know, it was a small thing, but it might be something you want to make note of, just to glue past that fold and then recrease the fold when you get it glued in. So that was that way I think it just looks better. Now just make sure before you glue this in that everything folds nicely without this paper buckling. So therefore it's right up against there, but it's probably a pin's width, a couple hairs on the other side of that crease, just so that when you do this there is no buckling. Test that out. And so we've inked up the sides, and we're just going to get in here. Okay, oops, and then we'll just layer down here, and you do have to work kind of fast with glitter glue. So yeah, there we go. All right, that feels good. All right, so this portion is all put down nicely. And then here are the, these pockets come with Queen of Mirth's kit, a Botanist notebook kit. And I'll put a link down below. I may not have mentioned in this part 2 where I got this kit from, and that this is a design team project for Queen of Mirth's digital kit. So let's put this little guy down here. This little pocket. And what's nice about these pockets is they have this little, I don't know, little flange on here so that it will hold more than one little item. It'll hold quite a few tags and stuff like that you can hold. Now make sure that this bottom flap is on the outside of these two flaps so that your card will go down easily. And put it about here. There we go, right about there. So there's room here for a tag to sit. And there we go. And first, a second. Nope. This and this. There we go. So there is our envelope, stacked envelope portion finished. And the next time we get together, we're going to be working on this part, and I'll be putting in some flaps and a storage place for this. And eventually I want to put an accordion envelope over here, and I think I'm going to put my stacked envelopes over here in this section. But anyways, this is what we've got so far, so thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you next time with this relaxed tutorial, or really kind of a craft along. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.